Hello and welcome back to New Gameplay Today. I am Leo Vader. I'm joined today by Suriel Vasquez.
Hello.
We also have Matt Miller.
Hello.
We're playing SpyParty today, a game that's been in development since, I believe, the dawn of man.
I think that's right.
That's right.
Right now, Suriel's playing as the spy before our very eyes. Is that correct?
That's right.
And correct me if I'm wrong, you're trying not to get sniped by Matt Miller.
That's right.
How do you go about not getting sniped?
So the way the game works is that you can either be a spy or a sniper, and so the spy has a number of objectives they have to do in order to basically win the mission.
Okay.
So basically, they can include like swapping statues, contacting the double agent, seducing targets, and they're kind of randomized depending on what you kind of do. But what ends up happening is that you have to learn how to play like a computer. And so you sort of have to figure out like what the appropriate like walking paths are and making sure that, you're not acting too suspicious.
So is it trial and error, or can you observe during the match and learn throughout?
I basically have as the sniper right now. You're not seeing the sniper view, you're seeing the spy view. But I have a different screen right now where I'm looking at things from outside the window, and I'm just watching for any suspicious behavior.
And you've got one bullet to use, right?
I have only one bullet, and I know the missions that he is on, but not the specifics of like when he's going to try to do which one. So he might be right now trying to bug the ambassador, contact the double agent. I just wouldn't know. In fact, he may be moving forward on some of that stuff on the screen that you guys are looking at, and I wouldn't know about it because I don't have his screen.
Right.
So, Suriel, are you doing any objectives right now, or are you just blending in?
Maybe doing a little bit of both.
Miller, plug your ears.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be kind of impossible for us to like have a real game of this where we actually talk about it. So I'm not going to Suriel, I'm not going to shoot you right away.
Okay.
So we can talk about this a little bit just to kind of show off what's going on.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, I have, as you can see there on the top of my screen, I have 4 objectives. And so, I mean, Miller knows these as well. So I have to bug the ambassador, contact the double agent. I believe Miller doesn't know when I've done them. But he has those objectives give you a good idea of what you should be looking for as the
sniper.
As the sniper. So, like, if you're looking at, like, the statues, the sniper knows to watch out and make sure they're not, swapping things out, things like that. And each of the missions have like some sort of tell.
Banana bread.
Right.
Somebody said banana bread. So that's the code word that tells me that somebody contacted the double agent. And so at that point, I should low light. The sniper has tools in which to like mark people who aren't suspects anymore and ones that are strong suspects. It's called low lighting and highlighting.
Yeah.
And so if I'd been looking closely, I could see, well, none of these people were in conversations at that moment. So that couldn't have been the people who said banana bread.
Right. That's interesting. There is a pretty lengthy tutorial you guys have both played before this.
Yeah, this game is not like just drop in and play and immediately understand it, I wouldn't say. Would you agree with that, Suriel?
Yeah, you should definitely try to do the tutorial.
It seems like just a little bit of experience with the game would go a long way towards being good.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's an interesting concept, right? You have these very specific goals, so it's not just about being computer-like all the time. It's about being unobtrusive while simultaneously finishing very particular things. Mm-hmm. So at some point, for instance, I know that there are these 3 statues, right? And it looks like one of them has already been swapped, potentially. Did you already swap a statue?
I have swapped the statue.
Yeah, exactly. So if I'd been watching the statues closely at that point, I would have seen him do that, but I didn't. So now I've just seen that it's basically been completed and that there's now one of the statues has been changed out.
Right. So now Suriel didn't quite flirt in time.
No, I did. The only thing I was missing there was seducing that last target, and she moved like the second that I was like the bar was like 90% full.
So, So yeah, there's even ways that the spy can extend his or her time.
Right. So at one point I had to do that because I knew I was going to run out of time. So the way you do that is you run over to the edge of a window and you check your watch. And there's two ways to check your watch. One is like basically a fake, like I'm going to check my watch and not do anything. And the other one is I'm going to check my watch and add time. So because the AI does all these things too. So, but only players can add time. So you sort of want to fake it a little bit and make sure like, if you didn't, because the sniper is going to know when time gets added.
Right.
So if you're too kind of forward with it, like they'll know and immediately shoot you.
Okay.
So should we do another match and show kind of the other perspective?
Yeah, for sure.
So now Suriel is doing the sniping.
That's right.
Matt Miller is somewhere in that crowd.
So as you can see, so certain targets, like you look at the waiter, you look at the security agent, those are immediately someone, and the ambassador, I think, as well. Those are targets you can immediately low light and see. As you can see that they're not as emphasized. So if I just click on her, I can highlight her, and she'll sort of stand out. So that it's a good way to sort of keep track of like, hey, here's what everyone's doing, and make sure that you're kind of keeping track of people. And so one thing that Miller pointed out was that as soon as I contacted the double agent, he heard the prompt, which was banana bread. And so
Will it be banana bread this time too?
It's always banana bread, yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
So one thing to keep track of here is the statues.
More statue swapping, an important part of any spy's repertoire.
So the player knows who the spy knows who the double agent is, but I have a number of suspects I have.
Right. So what's your strategy right now?
So right now I'm keeping an eye on the statues, making sure they're not getting swapped, and you also want to keep an eye on the double agents. So right now I'm looking at the eagle. There's 3 eagles over there, but I'm not sure if those have been swapped. So, cause the thing that I found is it's much harder and a little more stressful to play the sniper because you are keeping track of so much information. So I think this will actually figuring out how to play the sniper will be the biggest part of the learning curve, even though the spy has so much more to do.
Yeah.
I think it's sort of easier to delegate that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Whereas the sniper, you're not sure what you're looking at, and you're sort of waiting for cues.
Huh.
So right now we've heard banana bread, so I can low light him because he wasn't in a conversation, and I can low light her because she wasn't in a conversation. But I wasn't 100% keeping track. I think she might have not been in a conversation. But so you use sort of those prompts to say, okay, I'm narrowing down the field a little bit, and making sure that I'm keeping track of that stuff.
I'm going to say I suspect the guy in the wheelchair right now.
The guy in the wheelchair?
That's me personally.
Okay. So I still have 2 minutes to figure out, and the bugging the ambassador one has a little bit of a tell. So you're also kind of keeping track of the ambassador. There's a lot of stuff where you can grab drinks and sort of... like, drinks make it harder to do things, so you have to be doing it with a certain hand. But it's also a good cover, so... Because, if you're an AI, you can have a drink. But if you're a player, you're disincentivized from getting a drink. But if you get a drink, it can be this guy's...
Right. Very AI thing to do.
Right. So if you're looking at sort of the seduction target, you're looking for someone who is sort of moving toward and away someone frequently. Because the way the seduction stuff works is that you flirt with someone, you get a certain percentage depending on how close you are to them, but then you have to cool off a bit, and the farther away you are from them, the better it is to do that. Like the faster it cools down, so you're incentivized to move into the target, and then move away.
Now, does this stuff feel open-ended, or does it feel like you're kind of learning how to do each objective the one way to look out for what happens? Specifically.
I feel like it does feel open-ended. There are multiple kinds of missions, and so you can change up which missions exactly you have, and there's different maps. So in this map, I think it's relatively easy to keep track of everybody. So the spy was able to do everything, and it was the guy you suspected.
It was the guy. That was the guy.
That was the guy.
So I had previously understood that once you complete all the objectives, you have to wait until the timer runs down. So I was going to shoot him at the end of the timer, but
it's actually the time I got that timer and you didn't.
Right.
So I think that's how it works.
Yeah. There's a lot to it, but I think once you practice it a little bit, it becomes a little more second nature in terms of like, okay, I know what I'm supposed to be doing. I just have to keep track of these things. But I definitely feel like it is harder to play the sniper than it is
at least
spy.
in the beginning.
Yeah.
Right.
Because in the beginning as the spy, you're literally just kind of like walking around and doing things that are obvious to do.
Right.
And when you're being obtrusive, like there were plenty of times there that I think you guys could have figured out, and you did figure out which guy I was, because like I didn't know what I was doing. I was kind of moving around in dumb ways.
Yeah.
Eventually I would be a little bit more subtle about it because I'd know how to kind of act more normal.
Right. The tutorial kind of advises you like don't stop moving once you've started moving towards an objective.
Right.
And don't do it too quickly. Like you have to because the AI stops at certain spots and then does something. So you have to learn how to basically watch the AIs and play like them. And it's one of those games where if you play as a spy, you'll learn how to be a sniper because you'll have a knowledge of how spies play and vice versa.
Right, sure.
So there's definitely a lot to it, I think. It's just a matter of sort of the reward. So right now, like sort of the thing that I'm most curious about is how it does long term, because I haven't, had a session where I just played a lot of it so far.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering how quickly it wears out that welcome. But right now, it feels pretty novel. I like how it has all these rules in place to make sure it isn't too easy for one side or the other, because as obvious as you can be as a new player, you have to keep in mind that the sniper has a lot to keep track of, because they have to be looking at all the statues, they have to be watching the ambassador, they have to look at different parts of the map at the same time, and so they are distracted a lot of the time. So it isn't like as obvious as you might think it is.
Okay, that's cool. This game is available today on Steam
That's
Early
right.
Access for $25.
That's right.
Recommended at this point? Seem interesting enough?
I think if you're the kind of person who likes board games, sort of like a Werewolf or what's the other one called? The one we always play with Hanson.
Avalon.
Those kinds
it's
of
like a bluffing game to some degree. It also reminds me a little bit of some of the things I liked about the Assassin's Creed multiplayer.
Yes.
Back in the day.
Right.
And
yeah, it's if you like stuff like Avalon, stuff like Werewolf, but those games always take a lot of people to set up. So this is sort of like a really good self-contained two-person version of that. So I think if you're a fan of those games, they might be worth checking out, especially since. But just keep in mind that it is early access. Chris Hecker, the guy who made the game, is still planning to add features he says it's going to be in early access for 2 years. So a lot of the menus when you go in are super basic. So just keep that stuff in mind. But if deception and stuff appeals to you, I think it's worth checking out.
Cool. Well, thanks, guys. And as always, bye.
Bye.